Welcome to the Her Story Circle podcast, the podcast that brings you the extraordinary tales of everyday women who are changing the world. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and I'd like to acknowledge traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today. I also like to pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging. Every week, we dive into the lives, challenges, and triumphs of women from all four corners of the globe. We're here to inspire, enlighten, and connect, sharing stories that uplift and empower. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and join us as we explore the incredible journeys of women shaping our future. This is Her Story, where every woman's voice matters. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Her Story Circle. This is Gertrude Mache here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. And today I am graced with the presence of yet another fascinating woman. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our tribe. Please tell everybody your full name, where you're based, and share your story with us today.
Thank you so much for having me here today. It's just such an honor. My name is Jerritt, and I am from beautiful Vancouver Island in British Columbia, Canada. So today I'm going to talk about a story that was very pivotal for me. It started when I was 7 years old. So when I was 7, I experienced this pivotal moment. I was the new kid yet again in my grade 2 class. And the teacher had us find a poem, memorize it, and then come prepared to stand up in front of the class and recite it. So I was pretty shy, and being new to the school, I didn't really know my classmates very well. So my shy, quiet little 7-year-old self was pretty nervous. I'd practiced this poem over and over. I had it memorized, and I loved the poem. So in a very small, shaky voice with my eyes cast down, I began to recite, "There once was a puffin, just the shape of a muffin, who lived on an island in the bright blue sea. And he ate little fishes that were most delicious." And suddenly my classmates all burst out laughing. So the teacher stopped me after a few lines and told me to go sit down and come back with another poem when I decided to take my homework seriously. I mean, I was 7. What was there to take seriously? But in that moment, clear as the summer sky, something in me decided it was safer to disappear than to shine. So I sat down a smaller version of myself than when I stood up. And I never forgot that poem. So for the next 35 years of my life, I mastered the art of dimming my own light. I became observant, adaptable, hyper-aware, and I lived behind an image to protect the real me. And little did I know that one day that poem moment would explain to me the profound effect of unconscious leadership. The classroom moment wasn't just about embarrassment for me, it was about identity. It was the first time I consciously self-silenced and edited myself for safety. And over time, the world simply reinforced what I came to believe about myself. As a child, I moved every 2 years. So new schools, new cities, new homes, new social ecosystems. And I became really good at reading rooms, very good at reinvention. Who did I need to be this time? What version of me will be accepted here? How do I need to bend to fit into a space that already hurts? Reinvention wasn't empowerment for me, not yet. It was simply survival. And sorry, it looked like I just cut out there. Sorry, I was totally, my camera cut out there. So I became a 40-year entrepreneur. I built companies, I created national certifications, I developed programs that changed industries. And from the outside, I looked pretty confident and self-assured, pretty much all together. But internally, I was still managing rejection and image and self-doubt. I was still editing and still self-silencing, and I was still performing rather than embodying my authenticity. And here's what I've come to understand. Most leaders don't struggle with strategy. Unknowingly, they struggle with the silent agreements they made when they were 7 years old. Because I moved every 2 years, I learned something very powerful. I learned that my identity could be very fluid. I was a successful chameleon that could blend and bend and alter and shift at whim. At first, it was simply to survive, but over time, it actually became one of my superpowers. I traveled to almost 30 countries. I've competed in very painful ultra-distance endurance races, and I've fearlessly tested my boundaries in all areas of my life. And why is that? Because somewhere inside me was a desire to test the edges of who the world told me I was supposed to be. And then there was Ghana and Guyana and Cambodia and Peru and Myanmar, just to name a few. I went to these places as a leadership mentor thinking, I'm going to help. I thought I was bringing something to each country that they needed. Instead, I received something profound. I received their joy and their dignity and their love and their laughter. There was never any pity in their experiences, only humanity. And those experiences filled me with a universal knowledge. Leadership wasn't about status or credentials or education. It was actually about alignment and coherence. In Myanmar, I actually witnessed a 14-year-old girl outshine her peer group of 47 entrepreneurs who ranged in age from 19 to 47. Effectively, she was the uncensored 14-year-old version of who I never got to be at that age. She had no title or social media handles, just innocent courage. And that's when it clicked to me. Leadership isn't power or a title or education or success. Leadership is universal and it's ageless. And most importantly, it's an energetic signature. And whether we realize it or not, we're always emitting that energetic signature everywhere we go. So with the work that I've done both locally and globally, here's what I've come to know. Workplaces are still built on fear. Fear of not being enough, fear of being exposed, of not being relevant, of not being liked, of being outshone, of not meeting the KPIs or the ROIs. And so we've built cultures around performance and fear rather than on alignment. We celebrate burnout as dedication, and we normalize anxiety as ambition. And we inherit leadership styles without ever questioning their origin. And then we wonder why our teams, our staff, our employees are disengaged, overwhelmed, and medicated. The issue isn't strategy or motivation or dedication. It's an outdated emotional software that's still guiding the entire system. A software that says, be perfect, be the best, never say no, be hyper-educated, work always comes first, you're not enough, be liked, be strong, don't be too much, and for heaven's sakes, be quiet. Authentic leadership, it doesn't come from being more or adding more. It actually comes from subtracting what was never yours to carry in the first place. My puffin poem moment, that's software. And unless we update our software, we scale those wounds. So over the years, through entrepreneurship and endurance racing and global travel and a deep spiritual and leadership study, I've distilled reinvention into something very practical. It starts with A, awareness. You cannot change what you cannot see. Awareness is identifying the inherited patterns that you lead from. Where did you learn that leadership equals control? Where did you learn that vulnerability equals weakness? When did you decide that it's safer to dim or to hide? And where did you learn that perfectionism equals success? This is followed by I, intention. More specifically, what is the why behind the actions and the goals and the milestones? This supercharges your results. Maybe it's to lead from courage rather than performance. Maybe it's to create safety that expands courage. Maybe it's to act as a lighthouse for possibility. This is when leadership becomes authorship. You stop reacting from history and you actually start responding from design, your design to be specific. And finally, we follow this up with D, which is deliberate imperfect action. And this is the part that often scares people the most. You move before you feel ready, not recklessly, but consciously. So you speak before your voice stops shaking. You lead before you have unanimous approval. You show up aligned, even if it disrupts the room. And you hold your boundaries even when it's hard. It's coherent. And coherence creates trust. And trust creates culture. And culture creates legacy. So I'd like to close by saying that your ripple effect is your legacy. And here's the part we don't talk about. A legacy ripple can only be fully experienced when the pond is still. If the water's chaotic, then the ripple is one of fear or urgency or performance or image, and it's creating impact from turbulence. And aligned impact doesn't come from force. It actually emerges from stillness. And stillness isn't passive. It's focused, intentional power. When your inner world is steady, your presence creates safety. And your decisions ripple cleanly through systems and teams and generations. Our workplaces don't need louder leaders. They need steadier ones. Because when the pond is still, even the smallest intentional act can travel farther than anyone ever imagined. So I'd like to remind you about the poem I told you about at the beginning of my share. Well, little did the teacher or the class know that that poem was all about love, inclusion, and no judgment. And I turned that poem into a song that I now sing to my grandbabies all the time. Full circle moment. Your legacy isn't what you accomplish. It's the energetic wake that you leave behind. So the question I'd like to leave behind for you is, will you become still long enough for your ripple to matter?
Wow. Mia, what an incredible story. You know what I would love to hear right now is the full version of that little poem that you recite to your grandbabies. Can you give that to us?
Sure. There once was a puffin just the shape of a muffin who lived on an island in the bright blue sea. And he ate little fishes that were most delicious, and he had them for supper and he had them for tea. But this poor little puffin, he could not do nothing, for he hadn't anybody to play with at all. So he sat on his island and he cried for a while, and he felt very lonely and he felt really small. Till along came some fishies and said, if you wishes, you can have us for playmates instead of for tea. So now they all play together in all sorts of weather, and the puffin eats pancakes like you and like me.
Wow. And you didn't even get to the end of your little poem.
Oh no, I only didn't. I bet you I got 3 sentences in and I was told to sit down.
So how has reinvention shaped who you are today?
You know, reinvention feels like a scary thing for a lot of people because it sits outside the boundaries of our comfort zone. And reinvention is really the stepping stone to the next great thing and the next big thing. And if you fall down while you're reinventing, it's just an entire series of learning lessons. So for me, reinvention is something that I embrace on an ongoing basis. What's next? What's around the corner?
That is so beautiful. So what belief about women and visibility do you most want to disrupt, Mia?
Oh, it's the dimming of the light. You know, we've learned our whole lives from a very young age that we are supposed to be, we should be, we need to be, we have to be. You know, I have a 6-year-old granddaughter and I watch her and I just think she's so perfect because the world hasn't gotten a hold of her yet. She doesn't care if her shirt's on backwards. She doesn't care if she's got ketchup on her face. She just doesn't care. It doesn't matter. The world hasn't told her that she needs to, you know, be quiet, stay small, go sit down. Don't do it that way. That's not how you do it. She hasn't gotten there yet. And she's just a perfect reflection of all the things that I wish for women as they're evolving to step back into their 7-year-old self when they were fearless and unapologetic.
Oh, man. So, what did you have to unlearn to step into leadership? There's so many things we are taught, our culture, the people around us. What was the main thing for you?
That's a really great question. It's a tough one, but I'm going to say the thing that kind of pops into my head immediately is self-rejection. So, rejection is such a big part of our human experience, being rejected by people, by jobs, by our body shape, our body type. There's 1,000 different forms of rejection, but the most dangerous rejection that we have is our self-rejection, when we start to believe all the stories that the world is telling us about ourselves.
Wow. How has your lived experience become your greatest asset? Yeah.
So that little piece of information that I shared in my share about moving every 2 years, literally
Yes.
14 towns, 26 houses, 8 or 9 schools, I learned resilience. I learned independence. I learned to stand up and move forward. And I do believe I learned that change is a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Wow. That's just incredible that you had so many changes in your life. And I guess they say that the only constant in life is change.
It's change,
Everything
yeah.
changes all the time, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
So what fear?
Everything.
There's a bit of a delay there, so sorry if I'm cutting you off.
No.
What are the fears that you face when you first decided to speak publicly?
Sorry, what fears?
What fears did you face when you first decided to speak publicly, public speaking?
Mhm. Am I good enough? What do I
Mm,
know? Who am I to say? You must be pretty arrogant to think you can. All of those egoic conversations that we have with ourselves. And our ego, of course, is just the part of us that we developed at 7 years old or 6 years old or 5 years old. It's the part of us that we developed in order to protect us, to protect our heart, to protect us from being hurt, from being rejected, from being betrayed. And that ego left unchecked can have a pretty loud voice. So
mhm,
that was my greatest fear before I really understood what the ego was. um,
mm,
that I was always questioning myself, like, what do you know? I've spoken on world stages in person, and I remember being there going, what am I doing here with all of these people who know so much? But
mm.
who am I to not?
I like that. I really like that.
Mhm.
So now that you're a grandmother, how do you define legacy in this season of your life?
Mm. Legacy is the ripple effect that you leave behind. When you leave a room, that ripple, that's the legacy.
Mm,
And when I mean the room, I mean this world, this planet. I have
mm,
this belief, this philosophy. My number one value in life is integrity. And for me, integrity means something different for everybody. But for me, integrity means I wake up each morning and I want to leave the biggest impact and the smallest impact that I can. So the biggest impact in terms of just interacting with people. How can I make that person a smile, a pat on a back, whatever it happens to be, as well at the same time, the smallest impact on Mother Earth. So those ways of showing up each day ultimately create a ripple effect. And like I said, the ripple, it's really difficult to experience the ripple if the pond is turbulent. So really working on having a very centered, clear, coherent inner state allows for me to create a ripple every single day. And that ripple ripples out everywhere. It might be into family, it might be into work, it might be into the world. But my ripple effect is just the same as everyone else's ripple effect. That is your legacy.
yeah. And it's
Mhm.
really interesting when you talk about the stillness that is needed for the ripple to take effect, right? It's
Mm.
when you're grounded in who you are, what you stand for, your integrity. That's the stillness you're referring to, correct?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
So in the work that I do, coherence means that what you think matches what you say, and that matches what you feel, and
Yeah.
therefore what you do. If one of those four things is out of alignment, you are not coherent. And for most people, it's the feeling. They can affirm all day long, I am
Yes.
perfect, I am whole, I am great. They can say the words out loud, I am perfect, I am great, I am whole. And they can meditate, those are the doings and journal. But if their heart feels like I suck, that's
Mm.
the loudest signal that the universe receives, and you're not coherent. So that coherence piece is so important to having a still pond.
That is such a beautiful analogy, and it's so clear now that you framed it this way. Now, what advice would you give to a woman over 50 who feels like it's too late in her stage of life?
Oh, that's a good question because I'm 60, so I do have those moments. Um, the what I would say is divine timing. The tighter
Mm,
we hold on to whatever the belief is, the more
yes,
it is true. So if you believe time
right.
is running out or you don't have enough time left or it's too late, then that is the
Right.
truth. That's the truth.
Mhm.
You know, and I just read recently, I can't remember who it was, you might be able to help me with this. She got her master's degree at 92 years of age.
Oh,
That's
wow. No.
it's someone very famous. And I was thinking, yeah, that's a perfect indication or example of someone saying, nah, it's not too late.
Yes, yes, I can still do this.
I can still do this. Whatever you believe is true, even if it's not true.
Huh. Wow. So, what role has faith or spirituality played in your reinvention?
Mm. Spirituality was, I was raised Catholic, and from a very young age, my experience of the religious structure felt very misaligned for me. It just always felt like something didn't add up. I didn't feel like I didn't understand why I had to go to a house or a building in order to be a good person. And when I was
Yeah.
introduced to spirituality at a fairly young age, actually, I was in Fiji in a non denominational schoolhouse, listening
Okay.
to someone play a guitar. And that's when I realized wait a second, I don't have to go to a building to be a good person. I can just be a good person. So that was sort
Yeah.
of my portal, my entryway into the spiritual world. Where, and by spirit, I just mean that your inner state is a perfect reflection of your outer
Outer.
outer environment. So
Yeah.
the more clear, kind, generous, present, loving you are on your inside, your outer world will manifest that, will outpicture it. And it's absolutely the most important thing for me each day.
I love that. That is just so beautiful. Now, my next few questions for you are a bit of a thought experiment.
Mm.
First one, I want to teleport you back to that young girl, that little girl who was put down for trying to share a beautiful poem and didn't even have time to explain what it was all about. If you were to go back and give her three nuggets of wisdom based on what life has taught you up until this point, Mia, what would those three nuggets of wisdom be?
Hmm. Those three nuggets would be number one, you're perfect just the way you are. Absolutely perfect. I'm thinking about what I would say to my granddaughter. Number two, when someone tells you that you need to be quiet, talk louder. And number three, listen to your gut, listen to your heart. Whatever your heart is telling you is the truth.
Absolutely beautiful. The next question is futuristic. I'm going to teleport you to go and meet the 90-year-old you.
Hmm.
Sitting in her rocking chair, surrounded by her children, her grandchildren, whoever's with you at the end. If we could have an opportunity to go and meet this wise woman who has led you up until this point, what will you say to her when you finally meet her, Mia?
Thank you for never giving up. Thank you for never quitting. Thank you for always believing what you knew in your heart from a very young age was that you were here to do something bigger than yourself. Thank you for not quitting.
I absolutely love that. And the reason why I like to ask women this question, Mia, is because the wise woman is already in us. She is that quiet voice that whispers, go left, go right, say yes, say no. But a lot of women don't know how to trust their inner voice.
Mm-hmm.
So we look outside of ourselves for answers, for solutions to our problems, instead of going within. And I have a little thing that I like to share with women. I play with the energy of who I am becoming. I trust that that woman is already in me. She's waiting for me at 90 to catch up with her. And if I'm going through something challenging, I go into my meditation, my prayers, and I ask myself a very simple question like, so what is the next step? To guide me, tell me what to do next, right? And miraculously, something happens. I go to sleep with that question in my head. And I'll wake up in the morning, I'm in the shower, and I get those light bulb moments. You know, when you get it when you're in the shower. The shower is really good for me to download information. Or I talk about it with other people, with other women. I tell them what I'm working on, what I'm struggling with. And it's like a jigsaw puzzle. One person brings a piece to the solution. Another person tells me something else. By the end of the week, it all comes together very, very beautifully.
Mm.
You are a living example of this. You have really tuned into who you are and who you are being in this life, in this moment, and now you're sharing it with other people. So how do you help and empower other women, Mia? How can people connect with you, learn from you, and do what you've done?
I actually start about 3 or 4 or 5 or 8 or 10 steps before where most or a lot of people come in terms of leadership. And I start by really pulling apart the energetic signature of the being of the person. So really looking at where all the energy is leaking in their life. It could be their home, it could be their relationships, it could be their work. Everywhere the energy is leaking and what it's costing them. That is actually the first and most important piece, because otherwise we're building a foundation on a sieve, basically, where energy just keeps leaking out of all the holes. So what we're trying to do is understand all of those holes that we've created based on our thinking.
Yes.
And decide, okay, now what do you want to do with all that leaky energy? Do you need to purge some relationships? Do you need to move? Do you need to actually quit that job? Is this where you truly want to be? Maybe it's your thinking. Maybe, do we have to look at the thinking piece? And from there, we start building out the new foundation before we even start looking at the journey of going from insight to impact. So insight to impact, if it's not done from a healthy essence, then the results will be quite predictable. They'll be limited. If the insight is wrapped in a bubble of curiosity and openness and co-creation and collaboration and fearlessness, then that bridge that we follow to get to impact has it's turbocharged beyond a person's imagination. Yeah.
Wow. I absolutely love that. That is just incredible. So you really help women who are at a crossroads, widowed, separated, divorced, about to retire, trying to reinvent themselves, correct?
I would say that It's not so much about reinventing, it's about remembering. It's about unlearning. It's about unlearning what the world told you or how the world told you you need to be, and to remember, as in remember putting the pieces back together in their perfect wholeness, to remember that they have so much power. I mean, the power is limitless when you let go of the ego, the image, the rejection, the betrayal, all of those things that are like anchors that hold us down. We cannot leap forward into our pure beingness when we're tethered to all of this stuff that's behind us.
Wow. That is so powerful. Now we've run out of time, but is there anything else I should have asked you and I didn't?
Oh, you asked me some beautiful questions, but I wouldn't mind to just leave with a thought, if that's okay.
That's fine.
In terms of source, whatever a person's source is, it could be Mother Earth, it could be the wind, it could be God, it could be whatever, whoever it is, Buddha. One thing I like to remind people is you only have to put your order in once. It's like going to a cafe and the waitress comes over and says, "What would you like?" And "I'd like a bowl of soup and a piece of bread." Perfect. She goes to get her your bowl of soup and your piece of bread. It's the same with source. When you put your order in, I choose to be the most amazing version of myself I can be, whatever it happens to be. You only have to put that order in once. And if you believe it, if you are coherent, then things start to happen behind the scenes that you have no idea are going on. You don't have to negotiate with source. You don't have to give them you don't have to tell them a story. You just have to put your order in and believe, fall into trust with yourself and with source, and it will happen.
Oh, I love that. Wow. Mia, thank you so much for coming online and sharing your incredible story with our community today. It's an absolute honor to have had you, and I'm excited that you're one of our speakers for the Her Story Online Summit for International Women's Day. People will get more of you then as well. So thank you for this interview.
Thank you so much for having me. It was truly an honor.
Absolute pleasure. And thank you to everybody who tuned in today. The Her Story Circle is not just a podcast. We're a social impact movement that brings you the stories and voices of women from all over the world. We share our stories to uplift you, to inspire you, to energize you, but most importantly, to help take you from where you are now to where you're trying to go. So if you are a woman who wants to remember who you truly are, that little girl who was born with everything she needed to create an amazing life, here's an expert who can help you get there. Or if you know someone who's struggling right now, please share this video, tag them online so they watch this from beginning to end. You don't have to do it the hard way. I'll be back again tomorrow, everybody, with yet another amazing guest. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world, and bye for now. Mia, thank you again for the interview.
Thank you so much.
Bye for now, buddy. Thank you for tuning into the Her Story Circle podcast. I hope today's story has inspired you to believe in the power of our stories and the difference you can make in the world when you use your voice. I'm Gertrude Mache, and it's been an honor to share this space with you, where voices from all walks of life come together to weave a rich tapestry of diverse perspectives. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast to help us share these stories with more listeners. Follow us on social media by looking for the Her Story Circle podcast for more updates. And join us tomorrow for another episode filled with courage, resilience, and empowerment. Remember, your story matters, and together we're building a stronger, more inclusive world. Until next time, keep making her story.